Hello everyone, welcome to Indie Game Arcade, a podcast all about indie games, and this episode we are talking about Metal Bringer. I don't know, I feel like you gotta say it like a certain way, otherwise it doesn't sound as cool. Like, you're just like, Metal Bringer. It's like,
Metal Bringer. But where's the emphasis, right? Metal Bringer.
Right. Metal Bringer. No, that doesn't work. Hey, my name's Chris.
I'm Joseph.
Yeah, this is a game not about like metal. It's about it's more like mechs and stuff, which is really cool.
Which I love assume are metal, things. Honestly.
Yeah, they're made of metal. But I was like, so it
metal is being brought.
Metal Bringer sounds like you're like, bringing the electric guitars and stuff like that. Like I'm picturing Eddie on top of the thing in Stranger Things, on top of the RV, like just going at it. But no, this is
bringing the metal.
Bringing the metal.
Game start!
Let's go ahead and get into it. So, Metal Bringer was released March 12th, 2025, developed by Alpha Wing Incorporated, published by Playism. Playism is, again, that like publisher that we see a lot on games that were developed in Japan. They do a ton of the translation and everything like that for these Japanese indie games. Retails for $19.99. If you pick it up now, I think it's on sale for like 10% off, like almost all of these games usually are in the first like several weeks that they release. So go and check that out. For a description, Metal Bringer, I don't know, is a roguelike action adventure game. It sounded constipated there, so now I feel...
Yeah, maybe...
Now I want to take that one back, but I can't.
Maybe
it's
be
already
careful.
out of the bag. Yeah. I feel like I popped
sitting in your own metal.
Yeah, I popped a blood vessel there. Metal Bringer is a roguelike action adventure game where players control customizable android soldiers called Labor and pilot giant machines known as arms. The game emphasizes character customization, strategic combat, and exploration within a sci-fi world filled with hordes of enemies. The story centers around Saria, a young girl who awakens in a laboratory after being in cryosleep for 1,000 years. With humanity having taken refuge underground, Saria embarks on a quest to search for the remnants of civilization. Assisted by her companions known as Buds, I love that, Buds, they're just buds. She constructs and deploys labors to investigate the mysteries of the world and uncover humanity's fate. So there we go. There's the setup for it. I wanted to say really quick, the setup for the game, like the introduction to the world and everything, I really enjoyed it. It had this weird, it just gave me this vibe of, did you ever play Mega Man 64?
Yeah,
I don't know.
I did.
It just gave me like some sort of nostalgic, like towards that. Like I just immediately started thinking of that game for some reason. And even though that wasn't like a fantastic game, like I really liked it as a kid. But anyways, I'm getting off topic, but it sent me down that path where like immediately I was kind of endeared to this game for like the charm and stuff that it has like right away with the little characters like Bud and all that stuff. So I had a good time with this beginning part.
Yeah, I was thinking like Mega Man Legends. I might even mention that last week because that sounds like something I know that I've said at some point in the recent past. Right. Mega Man Legends, which is just the PlayStation version of what I assume Mega Man 64 was like. Honestly, I can't remember Mega Man 64 very well, but Mega Man Legends on the PlayStation, I did play.
I'm not going to lie. Mega Man 64, probably not worth remembering, but, it's just one of those like nostalgia
better than
things.
Superman 64.
Yeah, well, that doesn't take much now, does it?
Nope. All right. So you played a little bit of this. I don't want to start going into it until I hear your experience with it because I have a lot of words and a lot to say about it. Yeah, because I've played it for probably like 12 hours, I think.
Usually when you have a lot to say, it means you're going to get real mad about something. So now I'm
not
scared
necessarily
about what's going to happen.
No, I just want to see what your thoughts were so I can tell you where you're wrong. Go on.
Great. I didn't play nearly as long as you. I probably played maybe 2 hours or so. So like I didn't get super far into it, but like the one thing that I do want to say as like kind of an overall experience with this game really was like what I found interesting about it was that I loved how it felt almost like an arcadey kind of experience when you're out there fighting everything. And I think part of that is not just the gameplay, but the feedback you're kind of getting from the drops, like the amount of drops from the sound bites and everything, like all the sound effects that you're getting as you're destroying things, as they're blowing up. It's the visuals. So it felt like a very like kind of older arcadey experience to me when you're out in the world fighting and everything. But also like a criticism I do want to share that I have of it too is that there is like so much stuff in it as far as I think I talked about this with another game, with Rogue Genesia last week. With like the UI, there's just like so much stuff all crammed in and so many things to like adjust that I feel like a lot of things kind of get lost in the shuffle, and it didn't feel, as far as that stuff goes, it didn't feel intuitive to me where I understood all of this stuff that I have at my utilization to like do the stuff I want to do, to customize things the way I want. Like you can kind of figure some stuff out, but I don't know, like it wasn't readily apparent to me, like everything I should be doing or maybe could be doing.
Yeah, I would say let me start by saying I think this is a very good game. I want to preface with that because anything I say past this is just going to be like small critiques.
And can be used against you in a court of law.
Well, whatever. And things that are overcomeable for sure once you learn the mechanics of the game. But like the onboarding is definitely not user friendly. Like to any degree. If someone's jumping in and playing for 2 hours, you're probably going to have like not a whole lot of like real firm understanding of what's actually going on, what anything is doing and why you're doing any of those things. And I will say the first 2 levels of it are very easy. They like the first boss and the second boss. And it's once you get to the third stage, that's where it becomes like, oh man, like this is a huge skill check, and not even just a skill check as much as it is like you need to be like min-maxing your installed apps. What the apps are, it's basically like add-ons you find throughout the levels as you're going through them, and then you can install them at these like merchant stations. And once they're installed, you can then, oh man, okay, so there's layers to it. So it's like,
yeah, we also got to talk about like the labor, and we got to talk about the arms and how these apps even affect all of those.
Well, the labor is just like you out of mech form, basically. You're just a smaller robot that you can take on other units, but if you go against other mechs, you're gonna get crushed.
Yeah,
like, unless you like really use your I can't even remember what it's called, but your basic stats that you can level up with the credits that you're earning throughout. Like there's these stats you can level up. Health is one of them. Labor defense is one of them. Et cetera, et cetera. There's a whole bunch. And that's where the replayability comes in, and kind of the grind, if you want to call it that. And it really, like, it is more so than a lot of roguelikes I've played, only because there are some roguelikes I can get through maybe the second or third run and be like, okay, cool, I've gotten through the base of it. Now I need to just like try the harder, more expanded stuff. This one is kind of opposite, where it's like you can't even clear the game until you have a pretty good amount of resistances, defense, tenacity, different things like that are going to come into play, because once you hit that third level, the first and second level are a good mix of like small units, other labors that you're fighting against, and arms, which is other mechs, but like few and far between are the arms. Right. When you get to the third stage, it is like 5 mechs up against you almost immediately right when you enter the zone, and some labors on the ground, which are still not as important, but there are just mechs like knocking you around if you don't have the right kind of resistances with these like giant laser beams. Yeah. They will throw like gravity stuff at you. Like once you get to that level, you will find out that you do not know what you're doing yet. Even if you feel very confident, like, oh, I just crushed the first and second level, the third level will humble you so fast.
Sounds like experience talking, huh?
I've been crushed on that third level many times because I didn't I didn't appreciate how much went into really making sure you're putting the right apps in at the right time. And I'll go into apps a little bit. So what that is, it's like things that give you boost to certain abilities or give you the ability with either melee or ranged weapons to do certain things. Like one of them is allows your solid shots, which are a certain type of ammo or a certain type of weapon that you can use. They have solid shots and then energy shots. The solid shots can now add blaze damage, which is fire damage basically. So add some burn damage to it. Or there's one that's like you aren't knocked back as easily. And so it's like you have that as your basic skills, your basic apps, but then there are different levels that each of them can go up to a certain extent. And so you're wanting to kind of maximize your resistances while making sure you're also getting some good offense in there. So you're not just like hitting like a wet napkin. And it's like mixing all of those things together. I'm sure there are very skilled or very like advanced people who could probably get through this with no apps, maybe. But I am not one of those people for sure, because I see just how important that is for me, just to not get knocked around the moment I step into the third like stage, because that's really like the crux of it, is like you're just getting knocked all over the place. And the different parts of your mech can break. If your weapons break, you lose the weapon. So you have your head, which is like the top, you're basically the top torso, upper torso of your mech. You have your ride, I think it's called, and those are your legs and or wheels.
Yeah.
And then your two arms that have one weapon in each, or some of the mech heads have weapons equipped on them already and you don't get arms with them, and some have the ability to have 4 arms where you can switch between 2 sets of weapons. So there's huge variety. The mech part of this is so cool. Like the building part is awesome. But then it's so much more technical than I expected it to be, because it's a very cutesy looking game. Like it looks like a fun, just like good time arcade game, and you're just going to breeze through it. And no, that's not what happens.
Yeah, there's a lot.
It gets so down into the details that it's like even the color that you paint your mech matters, because that also affects the resistance to that color of attack that is coming at you to some degree. So it's like everything matters. Not just like, hey, I'm gonna color it yellow or pink, and because that's fun. It's like, okay, cool. Well, you'll resist like pink weapons, but then those green weapons are gonna get you. You know, it's like there's just so much that goes into it, and I've played it for so long. But it's one of those. It's like it hasn't turned me off of the game. It has just made me like I don't know, more eager to actually best it, because it is just offering me such a challenge that a lot of roguelikes haven't, for better or for worse. I mean, I don't know if it's like too high of a skill ceiling for like an average roguelike player or not. And I want to warn people only because of that. It's not going to be as like straightforward or easy as a lot of them are, or how it may even look appearance wise. So just go in knowing it's going to be really tough. But once you get it down, like it is hard to put down your controller or I would say use your controller. I don't know if mouse and keyboard would work very well, but like it's hard to put down your controller, because I just keep wanting to go back for more every time I die, because you always either learn something new or get something new from each run. So it's like it incentivizes going back for more.
Plus, if you are someone like me that loves the idea of being able to be like a Gundam or something, like one of these days, man, I will be a Gundam pilot, or I'll pilot one of the Lions. I don't care. Like, just put me in a robot, send me to space. I want to fight in something. Being able to do that, like the fights in this, when you are in an arms and you're fighting another arms, are so fun, especially when you're both like flying around, shooting at each other. You're like trying to fly in and like, you know, swing your melee weapon and they dodge out of the way. Like the fights are really good. I think that was probably my favorite aspect out of the whole thing. I was getting a little bit of that vibe of, I remember like one of the first games I think I ever got on like Xbox was, I think it was called like Mecha or something, if you remember that. And I think that was the first time I really played like a mech kind of game. So I started playing this and I was just like, oh my God, I'm so ready.
And it's not as like overly serious as something like mech warrior to where
No, not
it
at
takes
all.
the fun out of the mechs. Well, what I mean is a lot of them are kind of like themed where there's one that is like a one of the opposing like pilots you'll fight is like a knight or has like knight armor. One of them is like literally like a Naruto knockoff, and that's hilarious because when he dies, he's like he does some like shadow clone jutsu thing or says something like that.
Yeah.
And so it's like a very direct knockoff. And then there's one that has like the mech has like a lion face on it. Like it looks really cool. So there's a lot of like really cool design decisions here. So if you can like decide for yourself, I want to face this challenge of trying to best this game, then I think the visuals will help carry you through for sure. That I have no complaints about.
And it's very like anime influenced, like as far as like the story and how everything plays out too. And especially with those characters, kind of like you were talking about. But like, let's talk about the art, because I think the art of this game really stands out. It's really interesting because it's a style that I don't think we've really seen anything quite like this before. Like, I don't
Aside
mean that
from
as
Samurai
in this
Bringer.
Yeah, it's Samurai Bringer, which is done by the exact, same studio.
Yeah, I actually have that game. I didn't
Oh, do
realize
you?
I had it.
I didn't know you had that either. So what it is, it's like a retro voxel art style. So you think of like, things like Minecraft and everything, real blocky and stuff. But what they do is they have real-time pixel art generation and ray tracing layered over the top of it. So it just creates just this really cool effect, and it has all this like dynamic lighting and everything to it also. So like, I don't even know how to describe visually how this looks, but it is extremely appealing to watch things move around on the screen with this. It is a feast for the eyes for sure.
And luckily it is, because it becomes like so wild once you get to later levels with a lot of enemies on the screen. You're not gonna really know what's happening. It's just gonna be chaos. And you're just hoping that you're not taking too much damage or overheating or overcooling. There's so many things you have to keep in mind. But also, it's just cool, like grabbing two giant swords and just going and like swinging through a crowd of either labors or just into a mech and just like slicing it in half. Like it is so satisfying, this game, when you're doing well. And when you're not doing well, like there's not a whole lot of like, I'm not doing well, but I still have a chance. It's like, it's going to go from like, I am destroying everything to I am being destroyed. And that's really, there's not a lot of like middle ground. Vanguard Bandits is also something I wanted to mention because that is a PS, I think 1 game that I used to really enjoy. It's a mech tactics game, and I was getting a lot of, well, not a lot, but I was getting some feeling of that from this just because of the mech designs, I think.
Oh, okay.
If you don't know what that game is, it's a grid-based tactics game, kind of like, I don't know, Final Fantasy Tactics, I guess. That would have been my closest comparison on PS1.
Sure. Yeah, I would try that out. Like, I haven't played, aside from when I was talking about Mech Assault before, and then when we played, I think it was Override, which is the one mech game, Mech Brawler that we played. Like, I haven't had a ton of experience with mech-centered games, but like, I had such a good time playing this that now I've got that itch. Then I'm like, okay, I need to play more of this. I need to play more mech-based games and see what else is like also out there. So I'm like super sucked into it now, which is like makes sense because I love like the Gundam universe and everything. So yeah, why not?
Yeah, it's a really good game, but you just have to prep yourself for it. That's all.
Prep yourself for immediate failure. But it's like one of those things too where one thing that we've talked about before is we like when there's an explanation for death and everything in these roguelites, which I do like this too, where it's like, because you're sending out, like Saria's building each of these labors and that's what you're playing. It's not Saria going out herself. So it's not like she's dying when you fail. It's like these labors go out and then they blow up and then she just builds a new one and that's what starts the next run.
Yeah,
So,
but oddly, some of them, like, you can customize them to have a person face, and I don't know why. Like, why would you? There's and a lot of like the enemy units look like enemy laborers look like people, but it's like I know they're not, but it's just interesting that they are taking on that visage, I guess.
Hey, it's because AI is striving to be more like us every single day, Joseph. This is why. That's literally the story of this game, is that AI took over. And
yeah, this is our future.
Yeah. So this is why me and you need real mechs so we can be mech pilots. Put me in a Gundam. Let me battle against.
Get better at this game. This is your training for that.
I'm gonna fight ChatGPT in the future while I'm inside of a mech. That's my goal.
ChatGPT is gonna be your level 3 to you right now. So you got to get past level 3 to know if you're ready to face him.
I'll fight DeepSeek first, and then I'll fight ChatGPT.
DeepSeek may be even more prepared. Who knows?
I don't know. We'll see. I did want to say too, like, so you were talking about Samurai Bringer, which is another game that Alpha Wing has created. And that is a roguelike spectacle fighter, which is somewhat similar, where you're fighting swarms of samurai and demons. And instead of like customizing, like the mechs, weapons and pieces and stuff. So here you're customizing your fighting style, collecting different armor pieces, and has that exact same kind of visual style using that voxel base with like the pixel overlay and everything. So if people like this game, then I think they should go back and check out that other game from the past that they created with Samurai Bringer, because it looks really cool.
Supposedly the audio is very bad because there's a lot of, hold on, trying to turn off music. Yeah, there's a bunch of sound effects and stuff that are kind of like, I guess, fighting for superiority, and a lot of different channels that you have to turn down differently, it seems like. That seems like, as I'm looking over this, the general complaint, but apparently it's a decent game. I don't know.
Yeah, I know that
I have it, but I haven't played it.
For Metal Bringer, they used an adaptive music technology. So like it's some sort of technology that's supposed to like change based in
I noticed that. I noticed that when I go into like, I don't know if it's only triggered by like when I'm really hurt and go into a shop, but it seems like the music is like going faster as I'm like closer to death at some points.
Yeah, it's basically like whatever happens like in game, does make the music dynamically speed up, slow down, change. Like, I think that's pretty cool. I like that idea.
And when you encounter at least one of the boss mechs, like it does change the music over, so you'll kind of know when they are looming around you.
I think overall this was a really fun game. I had a really good time with it. I'm looking forward to playing more of it. And I think, I would recommend this to folks that are interested. If you like mech games, I think this is one to check out.
If you like a good challenge too, this is one that is surprisingly challenging. And so I'm gonna beat it eventually, but it has been definitely a lot tougher than I expected it to be.
Combo!
Let's pivot and talk about what other games we've been playing this week. I've been playing a lot more Rogue Genesia. I'll say that real quick. Doing a lot of the challenges and stuff. Like I'm sucked into that one. Like I can't stop playing it now. That's become my new Castlevania, or not Castlevania. It's become my new Vampire Survivors, where now I feel like I have to like get every achievement, and there's 300 of those. So I'm like, okay. So that's what I'm going to be playing on my Steam Deck forever till I get everything. But it's been fun. I've been having a good time with it. I also was playing Mudborne Frog Management Sim. This game releases, I think, this week. I didn't write down the date. I should have done that, and now I feel bad. But Mudborne is a casual nature management sim about discovering and breeding frogs. Awoken from hibernation, you find your pond abandoned. Through the genetic keys of new species, you must unlock the paths between the waking and dreaming worlds and embark on a journey to restore lost populations. It looks cute and cozy. I love the art design of this. I'd honestly say the easiest way to describe this is Stardew Valley for frogs who happen to be geneticists and mystics. And as intriguing as that might sound, the tutorial for this thing was just so incredibly heavy. It's like the opposite of what we had with with Metalbringer. There was just like so much. And even though like you are able to learn all this stuff at your own pace, which I do applaud, partway through all this stuff, it just didn't seem to be aligning with what I was able to do at that point in time. And then I kind of like fell off playing maybe, I don't know, an hour or so after playing the game, where I felt like I didn't really know how to continue forward. And I wanted to just kind of explore different things, but the game was like super gatekeepy about what was available in that first hour. So there was only like one NPC to interact with. I got lonely, man. I was lonely. I need more frogs I can talk to. So I had to set this one aside. I think someone with more patience and curiosity and, well, time will find something to enjoy here. Because it is super cute looking and everything, but it wasn't for me. This was a step too far in the cozy direction, I think, for me.
Yeah, I mean, I think that just comes with sim games in general. Is like you gotta invest a lot of time to keep your town, frog population, whatever going. And I know it's not for me, but it looks cool. It's cute.
Yeah, I was just like, I don't know. I think the big thing that turned me off was the inability to really explore, because like I'd be looking around and I'd see all this stuff that I want to go and check out, like ladders to different areas that like the ladders aren't all the way constructed, so I can't reach anything to really investigate anything. But I also like there doesn't seem like a path to being able to do anything with those ladders to get up there, at least not anytime soon. And it was more just like trying to force me to like just chill and like plant this stuff and see if you can grow mushrooms in 3 days, like hang out and then take a nap.
That's the exact reason you liked Wonderstop, right?
Wonderstop was different because in a fourth wall way, it was teaching you things, it was explaining things, it was guiding you through a story. This was just kind of like, plant these mushrooms, see if they grow in 3 days. You got to wait for it to get rainy outside. And it didn't rain for multiple days. So it was just like, I couldn't move forward and do anything else until that happened. So it was just like this. Yeah, I couldn't get into it, man. Couldn't do it.
Well, it is very positively rated on Steam. So it's probably for somebody, sounds like.
Yeah, I mean, there's always an audience for it. I'm just not in that one. I'm not there. I'm going to take my frogs and go home.
Too cozy. Genetically altering frogs. Too cozy.
Yeah. Speaking of frogs, you played FlyKnight.
Oh, yeah.
Frogs eat
yeah.
flies.
I guess
that's
frog
my
food.
That's my caveat.
Sure.
The frogs eat flies. So
you're not your caveat. Your
it's
your
my
segue.
Yeah. That's my pivot. My segue.
Yeah. So I did play FlyKnight. I had talked about it briefly in that I was going to play it soon, and I finally have. And this one came out on January 31st. This is a first-person dungeon crawler where you play as a fly who also happens to be a knight. And the evil witch Luna Moth has cursed everyone, preventing them from growing wings. And you're tasked with stopping her and stopping that curse. So that's why it is all ground-based, at least for you. You can't grow wings, even though you're a fly, because that curse. It's a Souls-like, or it's labeled as a Souls-like, but more accurately, it would be more like a Kingsfield-like FromSoft's first game, which is first-person, no dodge rolls, you are blocking. And I don't know if Kingsfield had parrying, but this does, in the sense that like you just repel whatever attack with either your shield or whatever weapon you're holding. And then you can, in most games. And in this one, it's like, it's fine. Like, it's just like a part of the game. You have to do it in this game. It's not even an option. Yeah, it's just like you do that, or you're just going to be taking completely unnecessary damage. So you have to parry and then kick them over if they are staggered. And that really is where you can get some good damage in. But I only played about an hour and a half of it. Really enjoyed what I did play so far. Apparently it's not very long. So it's one I'll see through the end for sure. The combat involves a lot of breaking parts or severing parts off of these insects you're up against. But because they're bugs, sometimes they'll just live through it. Like my first thought was like, let me like destroy this thing's head and just finish it off. But no, they'll still keep going. Somehow, even the archers, even if you shoot their heads off, they will still be able to shoot you, and accurately. It's not even like they lose anything. It's really just like if you're going to break any of the parts, maybe go for the arms that are holding weapons. That helps. Or maybe
Right.
the legs. I don't know. But you don't have to break any parts either. It's all just like there's only so much damage the bug can take, and then it just is dead. So that's really the basis of combat, is fight things and try to break or sever parts just to prevent them from doing certain attacks, or break their shields if you need to. There's a lot that's very interactable as far as the damage goes, which I appreciate. It's not just like a straight combat, hit things until they die. There's interactivity that you can hit certain parts, and also different weapons swing different directions depending on sort of which way you're moving. So that was a lot more advanced than I expected a game that like looks like this to be, because this is like not early computer, but like this is like early 3D computer graphics, or like PS1 graphics maybe. So it is like very rudimentary, but the gameplay is solid for what it is.
Yeah, I've seen that this, I think, was really surprising to a lot of people because it got like a really overwhelmingly positive review from most people. Like, I think it's still that on.
Yeah, it's still
Steam.
sitting at overwhelmingly positive.
Would you
And
say
I
your
think it's
experience
like-
has been the same, or do you think it's, you know?
Yeah, no, I get it. I think I understand like where everybody's coming from, and especially because I think what you're getting with this is a really good taste of something awesome, but it doesn't overstay its welcome because it's so short. Like, people are just wanting more. So that's why it's like,
Right.
yes, give me this, but give me more of this. So that's the general consensus that I've seen.
Would you recommend that for others, you think?
I think if you want to play, if you've not played Kingsfield and you don't care about that one, but you want to play something that's like a mix between Dark Souls and probably Skyrim, or would be like the closest comparison I can make, just because of the first person perspective, then I think this is a fun one to get into. I think like if you're not as concerned about the visuals, then gameplay wise, it is a really good game, very well done and very responsive.
Yeah. How do you feel about it having like the bug theme overall? Like, does it lean like super hard into it, or do you think they could have like leaned into it even more?
I think like I'm pretty early on still, so I don't know like exactly. I mean, I've seen like these roly-poly fighters that come up and like literally roll towards you and then jump out and like try to like drop kick you. Like,
yeah,
they are using it, and there are some that have some flight to them. And I think what makes it really interesting being bug themed is all of the severable parts, because it's not just like, you know, 2 arms. Sometimes they have more than that, or more limbs, or more things, and just more breakable parts. And it makes it where it kind of makes the difference between a sword and a hammer make sense, because there are some parts of the bug that are not going to be as soft or whatever. So you have to use like a smash weapon instead of like a slice weapon, things like that. So I think they really are playing into it, even just from what I played so far. So I'm curious to see like as I go through the whole thing, like how they'll lean into it further.
I think in the way that like Another Crab's Treasure was so themed with that, like I love the idea of seeing something like this. So yeah, I want to see like big bug enemies and all kinds of stuff like that.
Yeah, so I think it definitely is playing into that very well. And there's just like so many like different armor customizations and things that, or not customizations rather, but so many different armor that you can customize your bug with. There's a fishing mechanic that is actually pretty good.
Oh, hell
and yeah, it is just like full of things that I didn't expect it to even have, and or don't even know why they're there to some degree, but it's like, okay, cool. There's a spell casting. And there's a lot of different, you can equip like up to 3 different types of weapons that you can cycle through. Yeah. And then it's got a lot of nods to, well, I don't know about a lot, but it's got nods to Dark Souls at least, because it has some armor from the Onion Knight. I at least picked up the chest piece from the Onion Knight, so I assume the rest of it's there. And I'm sure a lot of the armor is inspired by other Souls-like games, if not directly Dark Souls for all of them.
Final round!
All right, let's talk about what titles are coming up on our radar, wishlist, or play calendar. I've got 2 here I'm going to bring up, which is starting with The Darkest Files, which comes out on the 25th of March. This is a detective game set in Germany after World War II, where you're essentially a prosecutor following clues and buried evidence to uncover former Nazis who have escaped justice. And then you gotta get them convicted in court. I love the historical aspect of this. It's very mixed with like a noir kind of feel. I do think it's probably gonna tread into some very uncomfortable territory given the subject matter. But it's history. It's important not to forget it. So I'm really interested in trying this one out. It's been on my wish list for a very, very long time. So I'm really excited for the release on this one. And then Your House, not my house, Your House, which comes out on March 27th. This is a narrative puzzle thriller that blurs the lines between games and books, reality and fiction, puzzles and storytelling. So basically, it's a creepy puzzle game that features a lot of voiceover to it, which sounds right up my alley as someone who loves horror, puzzles, and good voice acting. But when I play it, it means I'm going to be critical on all those fronts. So we'll see how it holds up, but it looks like it's a lot of fun.
So some of the games that I saw that are coming out, well, one, the day that we were recording this, the first one, Redemption of Liuyin is coming out in a few hours. And this is a Souls-like where you're playing as some martial artist fighting maybe demons to revive a cursed world. Like, it seems very like cliche as far as all of that goes, like just very samey as a lot of the other ones. But the combat, I think, is the like real focus here. Intense combat specifically. Looks like a game directly from China, and the translation, at least, of the description is the goal of this is to create a sweat-drenched combat experience for players in every game. So I think, wow, just going based off of that, plus some other stuff I read about in the description of it, about how it's kind of rewarding, active, very attack heavy combat. Like, you want to keep going in a very like Bloodborne like way, for anyone familiar with that, where you're not going to want to play as defensively because you're almost punished for playing defensively. So you should just keep attacking, like keep going and really push. And I think that is something that was apparent in some of the like trailer stuff I was watching. It's just very fast paced, but it looks really good. And I'm curious about, I had not even heard anything about this. I know it's part of some series, the Liuyin series, which none of the other games are like this though. So this is their first step into that. I saw there was a demo for it and it has mixed reviews, but I wasn't able to see what any of those reviews are. So I have no idea why, but this is one I'll at least keep an eye on, see how the reviews pan out. And if it's doing okay, then I'll probably pick it up, or at least try the demo, because I want to know. Yeah,
it looks awesome. Like, I was looking at the screenshots and everything. I see like him fighting the big spider thing. That looks really cool.
Yeah, and there's a lot of emphasis on like multiple endings. Apparently, like that's something they mention many times. So I guess this is a story that you can kind of carve your own path in as you go through it. Again, I don't really know what the story is. Something about like I had read it was something about some sort of substance that can cure all diseases, and there was some sort of like war or something over it, and then now the monsters came out and the world is cursed. Like, there was so much going on, I couldn't really get a good grasp of what exactly was happening, but
everything is
the
cursed.
Visuals,
demons,
and combat are carrying it enough for me to want to step in. It reminds me of like almost like a faster paced Neo, if you've played any of those games.
Yeah.
And then the other one I want to mention is Gal Guardians, completely different. Servants of the Dark.
Oh man.
So Gal Guardians, Servants of the Dark. This one comes out on the 26th, and it's a sequel to the 2D Metroidvania Gal Guardians Demon Purge, where you're playing as two demon sisters who also happen to be dressed as maids rather, of course. And they are attempting to revive the demon lord Maxim. So it's got like a cool like aesthetic to it, cutesy obviously, but also kind of like, oh gosh, I'm trying to think of the game that it reminds me of. There's some like tactics game that it reminds me of that's just like all demon focused, but it'll if it comes to me, I'll mention it. But so this one is just a Metroidvania game where you are playing as those two protagonists, the two sister demons. And I think like the previous game is still sitting at very positive reviews. I don't remember exactly when it came out, but this is one I'd probably give a shot because it just looks really good and the gameplay looks pretty solid.
Yeah, it looks very Castlevania-ish in a way. So, I like how it looks. I've been looking at this one for a while as well. So I'm very interested to see the release on this too and see some. Did this one have a demo? Do you know?
I don't know.
Okay.
But it comes out in a few days.
Yeah, I was going to say either way, it's going to be like out by the time this episode like goes live. So
yeah, I guess it does have a demo.
Oh, cool. Yeah, I was really interested in this one. I should have played the demo. I didn't realize it had one. So might have to get my hands on that, give it a shot this weekend and see how it stacks up.
It looks like you can kind of actively switch between the two sisters too as you go, which I think is how the first game played as well. They both have obviously different skills, different abilities, so different reasons to switch between the two. Probably, I wonder if it's like Lost Vikings in the way that you kind of switch between them to kind of do different things.
Almost like Bloodstained kind of did something like that too.
Yeah, where you have to switch between them to like do different sort of traversal. But I guess that's kind of like doesn't really matter if you get them both from the beginning, because then it's not really like locking anything away from you. I guess I don't necessarily see the point of that, but if they do it, fine, whatever.
Speaking of fine and whatever, if you enjoyed this episode, that would be fine. Whatever. Please do us a favor. Share it with someone who loves indie games. As always, you can catch me playing some of the games we discussed on the show, along with tons of other Let's Play content over at our YouTube channel, which is youtube.com/nerdsloth, and catch hundreds of hours of bonus content for $1 a month by subscribing to the Nerdsloth Treehouse at patreon.com/nerdsloth. I've also got an exclusive podcast there called the Nerdsloth Podcast for those at the $5 tier, along with some other exclusives for just those members. At nerdsloth.com, you can find a link to our Discord server and our merch store with some new stuff, and you can join our subreddit for Indie Game Arcade. Help us post more reviews of indie games so more folks can find games that suit their play style.
Game over.
That's game over for us. My name's Chris.
I'm Joseph.
And we'll continue on the next episode.
Continue.
Indie Game Arcade is recorded and produced by Sloth Creative. If you're looking for more gaming content, head over to youtube.com/nerdsloth. For additional podcasts, go to nerdsloth.com. If you'd like to support the show, there are multiple tiers available at patreon.com/nerdsloth, with hundreds of hours of bonus content from everything we do at Sloth Creative, including bonus gameplay videos of the games we talk about on the show. The theme music for the show is Retro Game Tapes by Audio Line. If you'd like to get in touch with us, or if you're an indie game developer and would like us to consider reviewing your game, send us an email to podcasts@nerdsloth.com with the subject line Indie Game Arcade.